So, as some of you know, hockey lives quite vast in my world. So, I started my session on power plays and penalty kills, staying relevant in the recruiting arena. I know, great play on words, right? Um, my background, for those of you who don't know who I am a reformed or recovering HR tech vendor. I started in the recruitment advertising space out of Minneapolis for a number of years, and then flipped to practitioner. Started in the third party staffing space, found it wasn't necessarily for me, and rolled into the corporate side of things. And so I've got a unique way of kind of looking at things from all three of those different facets. And so instead of going overly technical today in my world, I'm going to go real personal. I'm going to talk about how I've been able to take my current organization from 40 hires a year. I know, right? 40. Come on. You think you can do that in like a month to 120? We've tripled our hiring by bringing in some of the practices that I've had in my experiences coming to today. So let's talk pregame. How do we get better prepared? How do we stay in the lane and get, as relevant as possible? And so I tend to look at it the way that I run my three hockey teams here in Minnesota. I say here, like I'm still there. I'm actually in Lima, Ohio at a career fair for a diesel school that we're connected to. So I've got, candidates way over in the other room, and I'm here talking to you guys. But I talk strategy with them here today too. One of the things that we start up is warm-ups, right? Whenever you're in athletics, you start with a warm-up, whether it's, some basic calisthenics, etc. For me in recruiting, it's really starting by understanding our basis. Who are we working with? What is the structure of the organization? Who are the subject matter experts that I can lean on topics that I don't know? Now, when I went from vendor to practitioner, the first industry that I went into is healthcare. Well, there's so many freaking specialties in healthcare. I started out with ones that I didn't know at all, which was home care and imaging. I had 130 recs, which, come on, we all know the national average for a recruiter to actively maintain is about 30 to 40. So to have that many, there's no way. So I had to find different ways to shorten those things up. And part of it is by getting to know my subject matter experts, the leaders, the practitioners, so that way I can lean on them on areas where I'm not as strong. I know people, I know personalities, I know how to process those things. But when it comes to a walk nurse, I had no clue. So I had to lean on those folks. The strategy, what are we trying to accomplish in hiring these areas? What is the overall goals for the organization? Heck, in healthcare, what are the goals for the patients? And how do I find the right talent to provide care for those folks? Now it's very similar now when I'm in diesel and in truck. What do my customers expect out of us? What's the quality of the deliverables that they need from me in hiring great talent so they get the best outcomes possible? I had to do my research. I had to understand and do my pregame prep so I was ready to go. Referees. So when Ellie talked about being HR-ish, referees in recruiting are those rules and regulations that we have to abide by, that our hiring leaders have to abide by, that our candidates have to abide by. So knowing what those obstacles are, those hard and fast boundaries that we can work around or work through to accomplish the goals that we're trying to accomplish, or, to hit. In every different arena that I've been in, industry being, they were completely different. I didn't know what they were. I could anticipate some of them, but I had to spend time getting to know where those were, who those were, so that way I could navigate appropriately. I mean, the healthcare organization I was in, we had 7 unions. So one of the barriers were those union contracts for me. I had to know what things I could ask, what things I couldn't ask, how I could navigate salaries when they had strict, salary guidelines, becoming friends with the union presidents. So I knew how to navigate through those things a lot easier, and I could get those hires in and not lose that talent to competitors. Arenas. For me, when I think of arenas, I'm thinking home ice, neutral ice, and enemy territory. I always want to know what environment I'm going into. If they're coming to us, it's home ice advantage. I can put the sales hat on and I can give them the red carpet experience. Is it neutral? Am I at a career fair? How do I get that impactful message across to them to land that hire that much easier down the road? Or am I going into enemy territory? Am I geo-fencing, geo-targeting, to steal talent from my competitors? I need to know where I sit so I can customize and come across the right way to both my candidates and my hiring managers. The mental game. Obviously, sports and just like recruiting is very much mental. Um, I need to know, I need to frame myself that this isn't just the transaction of recruiting. So many of your leaders are going to think that it's just a transaction. You're just going to go find people and you're going to bring them to me and we're going to hire them. That's not it. There's overall people strategy involved here. If I bring a C caliber, technician to a manager, how do I sell them on developing them to be a B plus or A caliber technician? How am I going to leverage that story and get them to want that candidate when they may or may not have reservations? So that overall people strategy is my mental part to doing this job effectively every day. All right. So what I've done is I've kind of breaking this down into three periods. Again, hockey, right? So let's start with the corporate recruiters, people like me. I didn't, go into this thinking that I was going to be a 20-year recruiter. I've only been in it for 10. I started in law and advertising, fell into being a recruiter. So I wanted to start with people like me, and go through some of the different tactics that I've utilized to really differentiate myself and stay relevant, stay current, and stay overly prepared for what I need to do. One of the things we talked about, and I heard this from a couple different of the speakers today, is spending time physically in your departments. Now, Ellie talked about in the previous session about being remote and achieving what you need to achieve, either remote or hybrid. Well, in the diesel industry and sometimes in healthcare, we don't get that opportunity. We are in our units, or we are in the hospitals, or we are in the stores. And so I take the tactic of spending a day or half day, sometimes even more, actively in my units, sitting there working alongside the team, understanding the flow of how business operates, understanding the personality dynamics of the teams. How does the manager interact with the foreman versus the new grad tech? Understanding how those things operate, but then also seeing what the customers are going through. Does this work for everybody? I mean, if you're, recruiting in California for an organization in New York, it might not happen. But if you can find a way to spend physical time in your department, you will gain so much more that you can use to recruit. It's invaluable. Shorthanded. Sometimes in hockey, you take a penalty and you find yourself shorthanded playing against others that have more people, more tools. Well, guess what? You don't need every tool in the tool bag. You can survive, you can do, fantastic work by personalizing what you need to be successful. I don't work for a Fortune 500 company. I don't have the robust tools that some of my competitors do. But guess what they don't have? This guy. And so how do I give myself the tools and put myself above whatever they have available to them? So playing shorthanded isn't necessarily a detriment. There are people in the NHL that I know that are shorthanded experts. They love to play without all of the tools or all the people on their line. They know what they can achieve by having more ice. Well, guess what? We can do the same thing in recruiting. When I got here at NUS, they didn't have SMS. I'm like, how am I going to connect with diesel mechanics who aren't paying attention to email? They're not on their computers all day. They got wrenches in their hands. Nurses, when they're working 12-hour shifts, they're not paying attention, to their emails or messages at home. I needed those tools to find ways to connect. So, of course, I found a great partner, a vendor that could help me do that, and also within my budget. And so I was able to personalize that approach and get those things that could help me out. In the NHL, I know a name that sticks out. His name is Sean Avery. He played for the New York Rangers. He was the biggest pest. The biggest pest. Opposing teams hated him. They found ways to, get around him. This guy would distract everybody. Well, guess what? I get to do that to my competitors each and every day. I'm known as a thief in my market. I steal the best technicians, the best advisors. I would steal the best nurses to leave my organizations better tomorrow than they were today. I don't care if there's a wanted poster out for me. Facetiously, I don't think there are, but if there are, that'd be kind of cool. I want to disrupt the market. I want people to want to come here. And I do that by putting myself in front of everybody, right in front of my competitors. Yeah, you can hit them with a feather and kind of sit in the, in the shadows and do your hiring. But I like to be out front. I want people to know that this is the employer of choice in their market. So I love to be a pest. Do I talk to them? Sure. Do I give them the tips and tricks that I'm achieving? No, I don't need to. Um, for me, another big asset, as a corporate recruiter is success comes at a team, scoring as a team, scoring as a line. So when I have a hire that I've made and I've made an offer and they've accepted, I don't celebrate me. I I celebrate the managers. I celebrate the teams that are achieving and bringing this person on. Scoring goals, that's what the G is there. Uh, are landing great talents as a group. The organization succeeds by the people that we hire. It's not a Josh goal. I didn't score anything. I assisted. I played as a team and through our process to achieve that great hire. And so that's a great mindset for me is that these things don't happen, in a silo. We do it as a team. And another one for me is that the relationship doesn't end at the hire. I make myself available to my hires at any time. They can call me, text me, tweet me. I don't care. My job is to retain them, overall people strategy, like we talked about in the pregame, but it's more about letting them know that they can find me at any time. If they want to achieve a new role, hey, what is your goal? Tell me where you want to go. How can I help you get there? Then work with the leaders, work with that particular employee to find the path to that success. By the way, that picture there, that's my son in the black jersey. Gotta love showing my kids. All right, second period, third party recruiters. I was one of you. I worked for Robert Half. I know they got their cookie cutter, process and all that jazz. It didn't work for me, but I was there. I learned a lot while I was there. But one of the things that I found, and it worked out really well for me as a third party recruiter, is my successes came when I became a trusted advisor partner to my customers. They didn't want a salesperson. They wanted a talent advisor, a partner to help harness great people and bringing them into their organization. That was my power play. I used my potential or my possible influence to drive home success with them. I wanted them to look good to their leaders. And I did that by showing them great people that could help them achieve the goals that they were trying to hit. The only way that I find that out is not by pitching talent, saying, hey, I got this Salesforce engineer, I've got this, accounting person, this, admin that you need to look at. Like I get emails all the time from third party firms with just a list of names and skills and abilities. That's not being an advisor. That's just dumping talent on my doorstep. What worked for me in that capacity is really being a trusted advisor. I wanted to be the first person they called when they thought they were going to need somebody or immediately needed somebody. This falls right into the second point. Make sure your talent leads are relevant. If you don't know a company does, Salesforce or needs a Salesforce engineer, rock that out. Send them the right people. Give them the names that align with what they're trying to accomplish. It don't just throw talent in the wind. It's not going to help your candidates that you're trying to promote, and it's not going to help your clients. Then work in tandem with your candidates. I see some recruiters out there that I get messages from and I'm working with that the candidate and the recruiter, the third party, aren't even aligned on what they're trying to accomplish. They know they both want roles, but where are they trying to go? How are they going to get there? What are their long-term goals besides just getting the job? You need to be in sync with your candidate. Work as a tandem to achieve finding that role. Because guess what? When that happens, you both get paid, right? We know how this works. This is nothing new. Lastly, you can be an SME, subject matter expert in that vertical, whether it's transportation or healthcare, but yet you can still diversify and still do other areas. When I was on that side of the world, I was really in three different areas. I was in healthcare, I was in sales, and I was in transportation. Three areas where I could really lean on the industry, drive success for myself and for my staffing firm, but then also help my customers achieve by being that expert that they could come to. All right. We're cooking right along. It's already 3 o'clock. Let's go. Third period, finishing to win. Stop pitching. And this is for recruiters and third party. Stop pitching. Connect deeper. Here at this career fair today, People are walking past me. They have no idea who we are. Why? Because we're not in Ohio. I'm in Lima, Ohio, and I'm recruiting for a company in Minnesota and Wisconsin. They have no idea who our brand is. They have no idea what we do, what our corporate culture is, what our plan of success is. But what I do is I sit there and I talk to them about what are they trying to achieve? Where, what are they spending on being here? I talk to them directly about what does salary pay with where they wanted to be when they first came here versus where they can be. I give them facts and figures to make informed decisions. By doing that, they come right back to me. Just today alone, there was 3 young men that I talked to earlier in the day. After lunch, they brought 3 or 4 of their friends over. You need to talk to this guy. He'll tell you kind of what, the options are, where you're at, what options are, where they're close to. So that way you make an informed decision where your career is going. If I didn't connect with them at that deeper level, there's no way. There's 30, 40 employers in this room that are just pitching. Here's what we do. Here's what we pay. Here's the tools that we offer you. Here's the boots that we give you. That's a pitch. There's no value there. I talk about the ladder of success in our organization. That's where my power play, that's where my finisher is with those folks. This one's hard for some people to take. This next one. No is still a win. When a candidate tells me no, that's fine. It's not a no for forever. Oftentimes it's a no for now. They've made a decision to go to somebody else. That's okay. I'm not going to spend as much time, courting them to come to my team. But what I can do is I can still stay connected to them, maybe find them in a year or two and say, hey, based on where you went, are you achieving what you're looking for? If not, let's talk again. That no is still a win for me, so I can reallocate my time to something else. I'm not going to win every single battle in the corners. I'm not going to, at the end, win every game. But in the end, a no from a candidate or a no from a hiring leader is still a win, so I can still move on. Celebrate success with all involved. It goes back to what I talked about earlier, winning as a team. You see this picture here. This is my younger son's team. This picture was during the end of the season district tournament. They lost the championship, came in second place, but they're still ecstatic. It's the first time in years that this age group finished that high in their district tournament. And so, I love seeing successes across the organization. When I hire somebody, I send out messages to all of the leaders. Hey, we did this. Hey, guys, here's what's coming on board. Here are the number of hires that are in onboarding process. So that way they see the success as an organization, not just the success of the dollars that we're generating, but the success in the people that we're bringing on. That's my time. It's 3:05. I know we've got Lynn coming up behind me. If you want to connect, here's my LinkedIn profile. There's my email. I'm all over Twitter. You'll have to deal with all the food and the hockey lines, but you know what? So be it. Enjoy it. Good to connect.